preparation that's going directly into this very first matchup. There was no anything leading up to this except for the qualifiers, which are a couple of weeks behind us at this point. A lot of the predictions now going to the side of STMN, which I can't blame you for, especially since they 3-0'd Luminosity, I believe, in the last month, if it wasn't a 3-1. But I do know without a doubt that it was a fairly quick win for STMN, and that says a lot considering the dominance that Luminosity had in those last several months leading up to this point.
Yeah, yes, sir. 3-1 last month. Pretty convincing stuff for STMN, especially as good of a Luminosity roster as they have. Not the easiest thing to do. Getting a win against them, tough enough. Getting a 3-1 victory, making it a little more convincing. Something that's going to be tough too. STMN at the desk. We all three selected them. We're riding alongside Chat in this spot. I definitely don't blame people for picking Luminosity Gaming, though. It's a very strong roster, one that I certainly wouldn't want to play against, especially in a semifinals appearance. But one thing, again, that I did not expect, this is the second time now recently I've called it out this broadcast. A Mr. P first overall selection. Again, Mr. P solid. Not surprised to see him. But as a first overall pick ready, it's a little surprising to me.
Same here. I mean, this is one that is, of course, surprising, a little bit jarring, but the more I start to think about it, the more it makes sense. We're looking at Gold Arm Gulch. If you're able to enforce sort of a slow game, one that doesn't go too quickly, then Mr. P's lack of DPS doesn't seem to matter as much, and the spam of those turrets, all those porters constantly flying out, will maybe overpower things. Though STMN does have the advantage of having that last pick, so they might be able to pick something that breaks this. Daryl, now the selection from Luminosity, could be difficult for Stamina to counter. He's a pretty strong brawler, and we've actually seen Luminosity kind of pioneer the use of this brawler, or at least winning with this brawler on Gold Arm Gulch, so we'll see. They've still got it. They got to find something good to accent it as well. No Gus for them to work with. Stamina, I think, with their Gus can get a pretty beefy tank as well to contest the Daryl when he rolls in.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for them to maybe get things right, make sure they get a well-rounded composition, because Daryl here on the 4/5 turn can be a little dangerous. You do get tank counter opportunities for the other side if you pick this brawler earlier, but if you want to get a tank on the field and you don't have that 6th spot, you kind of just got to commit. I think Bo, a very well-rounded brawler. Again, this is something that is going to give them a lot of opportunities between the Bow Mines. They got the Mr. P porters. They got Daryl for the last-second aggression, especially the last-second aggression into somebody that's a little squishier on the Sprout side. So that might be an opportunity that they're going to look for as this progresses. Pam, the 6th selection here. STMN have a very bulky roster. I think if you pair Gus and his super alongside Pam, kind of a scary thing towards an in-game.
Yeah, I think Stamina is sort of playing something that needs to be pushed aggressively in the earlier game. Otherwise, they're going to win in the late game just about every time. Pam has a whole lot of health. She gets that healing. Gus can act as a support brawler with his super, and Sprout can crowd things out of mid with that super in the late game, and is going to have just about 100% uptime thanks to that super, or rather the gadget that gives the super back, restoring it off the ground. So Luminosity might be forced to play a little bit differently than they wanted to, especially with the Mr. P pick, potentially sort of slowing things down. But they're sort of going to commit on the right side. STMN fully committing on this right lane, and Charles trying to come in from the left side, and he actually gets some pretty good shots in here. He'll be able to get that super relatively early on in this game.
Got a little nervous there for Czar, but some good footwork there is going to keep him alive. Patchy forced to roll away now as well. Bobby Sands pursuing this, cut off there as well. So Charles going to be on the second half of this map, while Patchy left all alone up top with more HP. Sprout not necessarily going to be able to get those quick kills. They're going to focus Chino and Charles instead. The Bow Mines bailing them out here for a moment. And now Chino and Charles, a little more breathing room, a super going down on the field too. But as this progresses, I think they've got the health points to kind of deal with these porters pretty well. Sands, though, needs to be careful. A couple shots being landed there. STMN now clustering together as the storm starts to close in.
Nicely done by Luminosity as they managed to prevent Sands from getting the porter down too early. It is going to fall now, and Charles does have another one to go. Czar just barely alive. Sands also trying to crowd things out. 1-2 kills, and Chino's just looking for the super without feeding too much to the enemy team. He's not able to recoup that towards the end of the round, and it goes the way of Stamina. Not a super in sight for Stamina. Luminosity now rolling up once again, and maybe quite literally, as Patchy has his super ready. Charles also has that super ready to throw down. Wants to keep it away from Sand, so it's not super vulnerable, but vulnerable, but still affords them a bit of pressure with a constant barrage of porters.
They have to be really careful about where they place these porters too. I mean, Sprout can lob shots over a wall, so certainly something to keep in mind. Similar approach to what we saw in round number 1, Sands cutting off the middle of this match. Patchy gonna be left all alone up top, and it's Charles and Chino down low. This time though, little assistance from the porters from beyond. Sands, bottom of the map now as each side looks to get some strong footing. The closer and closer this gets to that storm closing in, the more control of the mid that they're going to want. And right now, that's favoring STMN.
Sands still gradually closing in. Got to restore a little bit of health, and he's also got to keep his distance from Patchy. He can roll a pretty sizable distance. Sands has a super, though. Bobby going to pop it on himself. Zar now coming around the left side with a scrap sucker. Big damage on the Charles, but no takedown just yet. The poison sneaks up on Charles from behind and claims his life. Chino also falls in the poison, and Patchy fights for his life, but to no avail.
The healing station available already inherently as a brawler has so much HP. So I think this composition can be quite well. Not to mention too, Pam as a final selection does really well into Daryl. Back in the good old days, especially early on 2022, the scrap sucker immediately eliminates shots from that shotgun brawler. So especially at a distance, Zar, a great answer into Daryl. Loving this composition from STMN more and more as we see it played out.
And it looks like he's trying to get in that aggressive position once again to sap away enemy shots. He's going to require the pinching abilities of his teammates. Big roll from Patchy. Bobby forced to pop the super. Gets basically no value off of it. He will be able to get a bit of damage on Patchy, who's largely pinched out. The final shot coming in claims his life. And it's now a 2v2 once again. Sands also is losing some of these walls to the mines placed down by Chino. The porter also still up, going to pose a bit of trouble for Bobby, as he's going to be forced to routinely eliminate these, power up that turret as well. Just wasting the shots, sapping away the ammo of Bobby and Sands, as Charles and Chino now seek to pinch them. Big damage in though. Bobby still just on his last legs. Charles is going to go for it, but he falls to the effects of the super, and now it's the 1v1 between Sands and Chino, going in Chino's favor. Round 1 goes to Luminosity.
Well played, the Luminosity Gaming, putting one up on the leaderboard here, so a round going in their favor. I think it's going to be very circumstantial. I think if Patchy can get some nice isolation plays going against somebody like Sands, maybe against Bobby without a super, but if Bobby gets a super again, he's going to almost double the amount of HP he has at the snap of a finger. Zar, somebody that they don't want to necessarily roll in on, so I think for both sides, it's going to come down to a lot of good shots, making sure that they're not in a bad positioning going towards those in-games. I think those bow mines can really help Luminosity maybe step forward, put some pressure on STMN to close things out. So supers all around, oh so important, especially when you have one life around.
Stamina is certainly playing this safe. Bobby's holding on to that super. Maybe waiting for Patchy to roll in before he decides to use it. Patchy already knows what that reaction is going to be when he rolls in too. So he needs all the assistance he can from his teammates. Now rotating towards bottom, likely going to try and get a roll on Sands if he can, hoping that Sands gets into the suboptimal positioning. Now rotation over from Zar, and the roll from Patchy. First target, the turret. Now Zar getting pinched between Charles and Patchy, but Charles is the first to fall, and Patchy just hides for his life around this cactus. Overgrowth comes in at the perfect time, and Chino and Bobby got to fight this last one out. The brawl is on, the shield is up. Could be an easy takedown for Bobby, but Chino responds with arrows.
He does, and being in a close situation where Bo can throw down several arrows with rapid succession, I think Chino might have even been a favorite in that spot. I don't think it's easy for either side. Getting them there was the issue. So STMN, I feel like, is a team that they can't put themselves in these one-on-one in-game scenarios. Maybe if it's Pam with a healing station or something, but Gus, Sprout, not gonna have the easiest time in one-on-one situations. Sands still low HP. Daryl getting picked up here though, despite that. Well played, and now STMN right back with the lead.
Objective of survival now completely out the window for Luminosity, it looks like, as they're just trying to get these supers while not feeding too much to stamina along the way, especially not Zar. His super is going to be the most difficult to get. Sands practically gets it for free, only has to hit 4 of those shots to get a super, so long as he's running the supercharge gear. Charles and Chino still assuming positions, looking for those damage. Charles has to be close. Chino has his poison coming in soon. Could be a good look for Luminosity, as Charles is the only one left to get a super for an appropriate setup for the next round.
Yeah, Charles is going to be looking for one if he can get it. STMN shutting that idea, though, down very quickly. Nicely played. 2 supers now available for the side of STMN. Sprout with the wall can cycle it in and out. Bobby with a shield to distribute. Patchy with one of his own. Chino with some mines available. You'd be throwing him down that right-hand side. I don't think that's necessarily to put the pressure on STMN. I think that's them intentionally throwing that down to try and open up the map a little bit, give Sprout a little more difficulty, so I don't mind that play.
Neither do I. Hopefully it works out in their favor. So far, so good for both teams. No major plays just yet, but Patchy has a role that he can use. Bobby seems like he was forced to pop that, or might have popped it in a panic, but it's a good look for Patchy. Now doesn't have to fight as strong with a foe should he decide to roll in. Sands also on the right side. A little bit open, but it's just an illusion. His two teammates are standing by, waiting for that roll to come in. And really everyone here is waiting for that poison to close in. Chino wants to get a super before that fact, now has it, immediately pops it. And it's just another obstacle for Bobby and Sands to work around. No major plays just yet, but Patchy now has to get in position for the big roll.
Patchy now using that roll, diving in, grabbing a kill. 3v2 situation, but if Sprout lobs these walls up properly, could be in their favor. Bobby popping the shield as well. Chino in a 1v1 interaction. 11 HP gets the job done. Luminosity grabbing themselves around. Next round takes our very first set.
There's just no such thing as a one-sided set between these two. It's always going to get as close as it possibly can. Just one round and aside the entire set. And who has the advantage is a big question to ask. Sands has no gadgets left, which is certainly going to hurt. A lot of walls being broken down too could impact him as well. Big damage on his R so far. But he's easily able to retreat. Bobby has the shield as a response. Once more, probably not too much action before we head into the final few seconds. The only thing really to be worked for is Charles' super. Hedge now closes off Patchy on the top side. Charles and Chino forced to brawl on the bottom. Still no action just yet, likely until we head into the final moments.
Charles throwing to throw down some suitcases to keep the enemies away for now. Spacing the floor a little bit. STMN now clustering together. Luminosity grouping up as well. They know this storm is imminent. It will be closing in and it will cause some problems. Patchy now ready to release all the action here. Backs against the storm wall. Shield being given out to Czar. Now Patchy low HP. One pickup for STMN here. They're the mines though. Bobby gonna get tripped up. 2v2 situation. Roll in from Patchy. The aggressive brawler pays off. It's Luminosity Gaming coming alive here and taking our very first set.
Rockstar performance there from Chino. I mean, the bow clutch at the top side was absolutely massive. Handing out those arrows left, right, and...
This is going to be awesome to watch Luminosity Gaming taking advantage of set number one. It's as close as it can get, and that's what I expect the whole way through. No exception here as we approach Kaboom Canyon. We're going over to Heist, Shelly, Cordelius, a couple brawlers that have entered the band stages all throughout our weekend. Somebody that's shown up very prevalently on both sides. Cordelius on this map in particular, I don't know if it necessarily does it for me as much, just considering how short range he has. So not seeing him banned here makes a little more sense to me. Shelly, though, I make no exceptions for Shelly. It is always Shelly stars until balance changes happen. And for that reason, I definitely relate to the STMN ban, especially considering they don't have that first overall selection.
I will join you in praying that Shelly gets some kind of adjustment, preferably a nerf, because it is really Shelly stars right now. Ooh, here's the Crow selection from Stamina. Definitely a wise one since this brawler was left open. Seeing Sands with the Crow next to him just doesn't seem right. It's no secret that Sands just absolutely hates this brawler, but I don't think he'll be the one playing it. You never really know. I want to talk more about the first pick, actually. On the side of Luminosity, the Carl is the first selection. Seems like a pretty straightforward brawler to counter, so I think now with the Daryl selection from Stamina, that makes sense. There's some other ways that they can go about it, especially with that last pick.
Daryl's a little risky. Same thing that I said a little bit earlier. When you take Daryl this early on, you are having some inherent risk here, leaving yourself open to being countered, but they do have one overall selection left. So I think this is a little bit better of a spot for them. And I think knowing that Luminosity Gaming were willing to pick this brawler up on the 4-5 turn in set number one, I think they're taking that information and rolling with it. It's clearly a brawler that they probably want. In general, Daryl going to be a great play into Carl. This is a little longer ranged of a map, and Tara, I think clearly a brawler here that's not going to get played too frequently. I think more selected for what we see on the other side with the Daryl. The pets, of course, can pile up some damage fairly quickly, especially on early on ladder. This is a brawler that I feel like I see all the darn time on Heist. But at the pro level, this definitely isn't a normal occurrence, I would say, for Tara.
Yeah, it is a little bit interesting. I don't know whether we'll be seeing those shades on the safe, but I can guarantee you she will be a menace in those bushes. And she can pretty routinely farm the tanks and cycle back her super relatively easily. For Stamina now with that Crow also, if they don't get that mid-fight really early on, it's going to be relatively difficult for them to win it back. But once they're there, it will be a lot more easy for them to hold on to it. Crow's such an oppressive brawler to be pushing into, especially if you don't really know his position. Squeak now coming in from Stamina. That's a little bit of vision there, especially if they're going with the, I think, objectively better gadget to use for Squeak, the one that more importantly slows things down and can lock off a lane, but secondarily also gives you vision inside those bushes.
Agreed. I think that's definitely the gadget they end up running. I think there's a little more debate around the star power of choice, especially given the recent balance changes. We've seen a lot of both this weekend, in all honesty. Jesse and Tara, though, for Luminosity Gaming on Kaboom Canyon. Not something I'm necessarily as used to seeing. No real wall break option, though, so I think this turret can do just fine. I think Crow, normally a brawler that I'm looking out for to be very powerful. It can do a good scouting report for your teammates here. Squeak also can gain some vision here as well. Immediate cutoff at that left-hand side. I don't know, I'm just excited. I'm just excited already. These aren't brawlers that we normally see on this map. We get to see two great teams pilot them. No complaints here. Let's just see what the mechanics do for them.
And that's the reality of Luminosity versus Stamina. I mean, they are drafting on a level that is beyond a lot of our comprehension, and this will, I think, definitely be played in some film review room after the monthly finals and long after the monthly finals. But we're here now, and so far, Stamina have taken some serious damage on their safe. Patchy is going to town. More so, the turret is going to town. It does finally get shut down, but not before taking down a full 31% out of that safe, and another 10% come in to take another decent chunk out of that safe. Zar also on the patrol, might get some damage versus the safe, but more importantly needs to make sure that that mid control remains. Chino getting big damage on the safe. Someone's gonna have to address him. It could be the last bit of damage. Chino still fighting for his life, smacking the pickaxe against the wall, and only 22% remain after he's chewed through most of it.
Gino just has so much health that Squeak by himself can't really get the job done. Crow by himself can't really get the job done. We need to see STMN crank it up here. They're down 50%. They have an opportunity to deal out some serious damage with somebody like Daryl. Squeak, if he can land a perfect super, can certainly get that done as well. But nonetheless, I think Luminosity equipped for defense here. This is the opportunity they want. But the Tara super, too much to handle. A pull away there, and now Luminosity leading the charge down the left-hand lane.
Zar still hanging on to this mid area, and the big slow comes in. Bobby now with the roll, full defense on the right side. Even the pull from Charles, and Chino rockets up the right side with the super. It's just gonna be a quick snag for Zar, but Charles still finds a moment to push up here. Maybe getting the retake of mid. Still taking a lot of damage from Zar. Could be the final amount to shut him down. Bobby, a little free damage there, and has the roll right over to Patchy. Could get the elim, now down with the gadget and a cycled super. Big damage on the safe, and Zar still on the patrol on the right side, keeping things safe. Well done for Sands to get the elimination on the left, and full connection of the super onto the safe. That's 9k damage total, and Zar's just gonna go for it. 6k, 7k, 10 seconds left, and Stamina gotta defend their saves with their lives. Sands taking all the aggro that he can, now dipping below 5 seconds, but we won't.
Pursuing that high safe, get some insane damage done. I mean, Daryl played by Bobby, you know, had to roll in, distract the enemy, get some damage of his own in there, and I think Bobby doing a good job towards the closing moment. I think the lead was just too much for Luminosity Gaming. All they needed was one good push, so a patchy turret going down there, and the rubber ducky can do the rest of the work. We'll see if things change here in game number 2. Great plays from both sides. To kick off game number 2, it's STMN with a little bit of a better one. Pick up at this left-hand side lane, and an offensive opportunity now for the green and gold.
All right. Big roll in from Bobby. Patchy taken down. Charles now trying to defend, but Bobby's got so much health. Zar also with the assistance on the right side. And Chino presses in on the left, but only 4% result from all of that effort. And the use of a gadget, too. The greatest for the gadget economy of Luminosity Gaming is they still have yet to take back that mid control. Just trying to circumvent the mid fight entirely, and Patchy and Chino might be able to make it through. Bobby with the response on the left. Patchy just beelining it over to the safe, ignoring any regard for keeping that mid control. Stamina retain the control of those bushes at mid. Luminosity still at a disadvantage.
Big control for STMN. Ball lead as well. Roll in from Bobby, taking some serious shots to the enemy side. Charles does have a super available though, and the reign of Bobby's terror will be ended there for a short moment. Zar and Sands though, still alive and well in the mid here. Patchy, Charles, Chino, trying to inch their way up, but it's hard to come back when Zar, Sands can cover so much of this left and right-hand lane with their shots, the daggers from Crow, or the Squeak shots just circulating around that side. A big jump in. Bobby with a nice gadget. 4,800 being dealt. Nearly perfect there from him. And now the roles are reversed. It's about a 50% lead, this time for STMN.
Ooh, potential opportunity for Luminosity. Get back that mid control and 40 seconds left. Seems like it could be plenty of time. Sans and Bobby have to be wizened up to this reality on the right side. Big damage from Charles in the takedown too. Little slowing action onto Charles. He's going to try and dispel this, blocking off some of the shots. One connection onto Charles. It's going to be it. He needs to rotate over to the left side, or at least just get over to where Bobby is. And Chino on the right side seeks cover. Now, 20 seconds remain. Big roll in from Bobby on the left. Could be a takedown, but not quite yet. Chino still on the patrol, looking for an angle to get in on this save, and Patchy throws down the turret. Sans has to defend. Any defense now done on Luminosity's side. The clock's ticking down, and so is the percentage. Just 2% left, and Luminosity steal it right out from STMN's feet. The rug pull is here, and the set victory is 2.
That's a big moment for this match. When the roles were reversed, Luminosity got the job done. And Charles, you can see it in his eyes. That man is cooking right now. He is pumped up. 2-0 lead against STMN is a huge deal. This is a team that I will never count out. They have
jump up and down on top of that safe, locking in 7k damage each time he was able to accomplish that. Could see the Crow make a reappearance here on Hard Rock Mine. I wouldn't count it out, but it is kind of unlikely. Much different game. Get to slow down the pace now.
Very interesting map to go for set number 3. Not a situation that I expecting, and I'm sure most of the casting desk, not going to speak for you fellas, but weren't expecting either. 2-0 lead for Luminosity. STMN have looked fierce in this second half of the season. Bans coming through. First overall selection going to be 8-bit. Can't talk about it enough. Love this brawler on this map. Colette, an opportunity to try and counter out the 8-bit coming in here for Luminosity. This is not one you're going to see very typically on Hard Rock Mine. Colonel Ruffs, however, one you will see much more frequently. Can power up teammates, bounce shot on those lanes. No Shelly, no Cordelius, no Crow. And on the other side, no Mr. P, no Tara. I believe the final one was a squeak there as Sandy is selected. Would hate playing into a squeak in this situation. I think a much more, we'll call it normal draft for STMN so far. It's 8-bit and Sandy. Sandy, of course, going to be playing the lane. 8-bit going to be working that turret, trying to charge up a super, dropping it down, and using some of these walls to kind of block for him. Use 3 get-out-of-jail-free cards a game. So interesting stuff, Reddy. Let me know your thoughts on how you feel about this start, especially now that Rico gets picked up.
Yeah, this Rico is always a fun one on Hard Rock Mine. I like the Rico on Hard Rock Mine. It's an absolute classic pick over here. Only problem is that sometimes counter to Rico is try and not play his lane. So Luminosity Gaming, I think they're perfectly equipped to play in as long as they have Chino play over there. He'll get a little bit outrange, but if anything, he's able to shoot around the same walls that Bobby is trying to shoot around. We'll see how they approach it, though. If anything, also, it's a tank counter, and Luminosity have their options a little bit limited by this. Let's also note they haven't picked the mid. And yeah, this is a very untraditional approach. Their mid might wind up being Chino, and they have Patchy run down the lane.
Maybe Charles, if he plays Colette going against the 8-bit, I mean, they might just want to play their matchup, right? I think Colette is somebody that they're very deliberately picking for the matchup and not the map or the game mode. You can get some cheeky plays out there where Colette uses the super to dive in, pick up a few gems, and then rush back. Might see that action. Could add up to why she could be played in mid here, too. I think Chino, maybe, but I think going to be more looking for the bounce shot if I had to guess. Ash, no way he plays the mid here. I think going to have to be aggressive. Two very different compositions. I think we're going to see STMN with a much more normal, something we're used to seeing here. But on the other side, Luminosity getting a little innovative here, trying something a little new, and a few big shots going down for Chino here again. 8-bit has so many health points ready, so every shot from Colette really going to be hefty into Bobby.
Yeah, seriously good call out here because Colette is a pretty hard counter to 8-bit. Big damage into. Wow, how's Chino able to get that on the return? Bobby made the mistake of walking right back into the path of Chino, it looked like. That was crazy precision there from Chino. However, Bobby's still able to get that very first super up. He'll be able to very safely come out and get that gem, and Chino might be a little bit more guarded about when he goes for those supers in, as Bobby's able to teleport back and return the big stuff from Zarz. He beams things across the field. Chino falls. Sans also tries to pile on Apache and does get some good success at first. However, things get reversed on him too. Luminosity Gaming sitting high and dry with 6 gems. Chino still trying to lock in the damage versus Bobby, but the first super comes in from Sans, the Sandy aficionado.
Now Sands can take advantage of the invisibility as well. Bobby creeping forward, establishing a turret on the ground to take down the Chino here too. The primary gym carrier for the blue side is Charles. There's only one gym being dropped. It's right in the line of fire for Bobby, though. Chino more than worth taking it and just running with it. Patchy, though, approaching this left. It's going to be interesting to see him creep up here. STMN now grouping together, playing it a little safe, and they've really brought themselves back into this one. A nice gadget from Sands, a nice kill as well from the team. Chino needed that one badly, but Zar simply hitting all of his shots there. It's really coming together here for STMN, who now take a 1 gym count lead.
It's a very challenging game, I think, for Patchy on the Ashe because he is able to run it down as you do with Ashe, but it looks like Sands is always trying to stay on that lane. He knows he'll be able to get free supers off of the guy. Takes a little while to charge up, but once you have it, it is serious stuff. Now, with the Sandstorm down, no visibility on Bobby. Still can get some taps in, but keep in mind that the vision gear does not affect that super anymore. A big stun from Sands, still not enough to send things packing. Some good ricochets from Ricochet on the right side. Zar now with the takedown. Chino tries to pick up the pieces, and Zar is still playing keep away, keeping all of these gyms at bay. STMN just barely behind. They're able to tie things up now as they equalize the scoreline now, getting a countdown for themselves.
Countdown for themselves, invisibility on their side. They have a turret option as well, and now a 12th gym in their pockets. A kill is necessary, but Chino all the way on the other side. Bobby hanging back, relaxing. The STMN.
With the Ashe, it seems like Sands is always rotating over to that lane. The more valuable thing with Sandy is his super, right? He's a fairly good brawler in close range. In any other situation, unfortunately won't be able to do much until he gets a super. But as long as Patchy is constantly pressing up the lane and giving those free shots to Sands, it's a dream for STMN. They constantly keep the control.
Nice super coming in from Chino there too. Again, they have to play this Colette into 8-bit very well. Considering that Colette is not normal here, not going to inherently be a great gym grab brawl. The whole purpose is so Chino's accomplishing that and picking up gyms in the process. That's really you can all ask of him. All things considered, like you mentioned, it is an interesting draft to say the least. This is a very Luminosity draft. Just playing with what they believe in, what they think works, and into somebody like STMN, you have to rely on that and go with your gut at the end of the day. But it's hard to bet against this STMN draft and the composition and how they're playing it so far. Neck and neck here as Bobby is about to pick up a 5th.
The 5th he does. Sort of returns to the back lines. Charles looks to farm up a super off of that. Will get the super, can use it to break open a wall, and he does so on the left side. Will make it a little bit more tricky for Zara to play that lane if he so desires. Could also provide some good resistance versus Sandy. 1-2 shots on the left side sends him packing. Even gets a super for Sands. And this is going to snowball for STMN. Sands will be able to get his super back more easily. Can even sneak in those bushes on the right side. Now, Charles already knows he wants that position, but Sands, he's just running it down. He runs straight forward, even gets the stun onto Charles and sends him to an early grave, too. Chino lurks in the back lines with 7 gems. Just barely under the count of stamina so far. Might have a rough time getting rid of this turret. Patchy's trying to close in around the right to afford them some space. But stamina now is just 1 gem away. A little theft of the gem from Chino. Patchy presses forward, but to no avail. That last gem's got to be going to stamina, and they run it back with the countdown.
Big control, gym count, and a lot with Bobby here. Needs to be careful though. Super 570 HP. Didn't have a turret to teleport back to. 7 seconds to go. Luminosity need to close this out and quickly. A super being fired down the side by Zar. Zan's picking up a kill as well. 10-10 overall. They get the job done. They hold STMN back long enough to where they at least can reset this countdown. Same situation. Once again, STMN with a count.
Good shots from Chino a moment ago, and a nice snipe of the gym, too. He's just keeping them in the game with these supers. But as long as no one's feeding them to him, he might have a rough time getting them back. Good shots from Bobby, but not too many of them make contact with Chino on the right side. Patchy is an absolute beast, taking down Zar, even in the midst of that flurry of an entire super. Luminosity now with 13 gems. Patchy trying to approach Bobby. He teleports away. Patchy now in close range versus Zar. Almost gets the kill, and he's left with just a bit of health left.
Down where those gems spawn, and just nothing came out in time. Needed a kill, couldn't quite grab it. And now all of a sudden, Luminosity Gaming, in our second to last month, with a match point on the 3rd set against STMN. I'm shocked. Chino making a big play there too is only going to make this more difficult if you're the STMN side.
The Stamina still are fighting for their lives here. We'll get A few gems, Luminosity. 0 right now, but 2 are perfectly positioned on the left side. Patchy also quietly sneaking up on the left side. Sans looking to take advantage of the positioning, get a free super for him and the team. Still nothing just yet. Kind of rotating over towards the back right. Maybe looking to take the lane versus Charles instead because Patchy's playing really, really patiently. And Sans might not be willing to go up against that. Patchy with the takedown. The back line's another one on the Bobby, and he's going to get to run away. An entire team wipe. And Luminosity Gaming just need this last gem to spawn before they get to run away with the countdown.
Major moment for Luminosity Gaming. If they take this game, they take it all. 13 seconds ago, a massive super going down for Czar, but Patchy has so many health points to work with. Sun going down as well, clock being reset. Chino there to grab all of these gems. Not enough in the mid. A kill is necessary. Chino going to be popping that gadget here. 10 seconds ago. Bobby going to be forced to laser down here. Patchy, though, cleaning things up the garbage. And Bobby knows what's coming. Luminosity Gaming, when it matters most, when the rivalry is tied, shine the brightest here. GG's. On to the next one for STMN. We're going to have to see some 2022 clutch stuff from STMN once again going into our final month.
Luminosity, an absolutely terrifying